Okay, good afternoon. I'm here with Carmen Penta, CPA, former nightclub and restaurant operator, and current owner of Branches Banquet Hall in West Long Branch, New Jersey. Carmen, how are you today?
Very good, Ace. Thank you. Hope you and the family are well.
We're all doing well, and you? Your
Yes,
family?
so far so good. Other than the people I know that missed their graduations and whatever, that's one of the problems in the family. My granddaughter, eighth grade graduation, she was very disappointed. There's so many people like that that were affected, but at least they're healthy.
That's good. That's true. That's the important thing. Carmen, look, without giving away your age, I understand you started in the food business as a short order cook at the Deal Casino back in your college days. Is that correct?
Well, actually, a little bit before that, Ace, I started, believe it or not, in high school at the Surfside Beach Club, which was part of the Seashore Day Camp.
Okay.
There's a housing development on it now, and I actually started as a junior in high school as a short order cook, and then moved up to be the manager the next year, my senior year, and then in college took over Deal Casino as the manager also. We ran both of them, myself and another friend of mine. And, we did the hiring, we did the firing, and if you remember, that was the glory days of the Jersey Shore. Deal Casino on a typical weekend could have 250 or 300 people, and they didn't want just hot dogs and hamburgers. We did specials, we did corned beef, we did roast beef, we did everything at their management's request. So that's where I really learned the ins and outs of the food business.
Speaking of the glory days of the Jersey Shore, you were also involved in the glory days of the Jersey Shore nightclub business when you owned and operated Montego Bay back in the 80s in Belmark. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a scene we probably will never see. In the 80s, we opened up in 82, and our capacity was about 1,000 people, believe it or not. The down the street from us was a place called Key Largo, and they held about 700 people. And then a little further down on the Ocean Boulevard was DJ's that held another 600 or 700. So in that small town, on any given weekend, you had 3,000 or 4,000 people going in and out of our places, and they actually called in the state police on weekends to help them. But as I said, having 1,000 people in there is how we made money, and that's something I think we're not going to see for a long, long time.
Was that 18-year-old drinking or 21 back then, Carmen?
That was 21, but we had a 2:00 closing. They wanted to make everything 3, but they didn't. Neptune for a while was 3, but people would leave Belmar at 2:00 and drive into Neptune, so they changed everything back then to 3. But the New Yorkers would come down 11:30 or 12, and when we told them at the door, because we had a cover charge, it's $5 to get in, they would say, what time do you stay open to? 4:00, we hope? And we said, no, unfortunately. It wasn't even 2. You had to stop serving at 1:45 to make sure everyone was out the door by 2. And we tried to convince the town, people come in the bars, as you probably know, in 2s and 3s and 4s. Over the course of a night, you generally don't have a lot of problems. But when you release them all at 10 of 2, you're going to have issues, you're going to have noise, you're going to have problems.
So with all of that, with all of those, that illustrious history in the hospitality business, right, your main profession is accounting now. You are an active CPA in Monmouth County, and you now represent over 50 restaurants.
Yes, that's always been my, let's call, daytime job. And I naturally gravitated to a lot of restaurant and bar owners. And we represent some of the larger restaurants in the Monmouth Ocean County area. And not only do I have over 50 restaurant clients, but I do a lot of litigation support work. And I'm often called in on a litigation matter to do a valuation or an internal control study, dispute between partners. So we help, and we work with other CPAs, letting them know if they do the accounting work, we're not after that. We follow our code of ethics and do just the job we were hired to do. And there aren't many CPAs in Monmouth County that do this type of work. So we've been very busy on that.
busy as you are, you still keep your hand in the hospitality business. You are a part owner in Branches Catering Complex, as I mentioned before, in West Long Branch, which has been closed like all other deemed non-essential businesses in New Jersey since mid-March. Can you give us a viewpoint, Carmen, just from both the business owner standpoint and from a CPA on the effects this pandemic and the delayed reopenings by our governor have had on your business and the businesses of your related clientele?
Yeah, and the short answer is it's a disaster. Closing indoor dining, especially in March and April, we didn't really have that much warning. And then they allowed us to do curbside pickup. And then eventually, recently, just outdoor dining. Now, I think we know the governor today finally, I think the date is July 2nd, I saw, is going to allow 25% capacity. Most restaurants, and you deal with them all the time, need at least a 60-70% occupancy to break even. So we're still not there. And starting curbside pickup and outdoor dining is really starting a new business for most of us. You have to buy special cleaning materials, personal protection equipment, containers, signage, advertising. It essentially was starting a new business, which is going to be short term for most of us. And now as they allow the 25% capacity, as I said, that's not going to turn profits for most of us. If you're in the catering business, you're doing events of 100 or more, and that's really where your profits are, whether they be weddings or corporate events. And even if we had the capacity to do it and we're allowed, my opinion is the average guest is not going to want to be part of a party that's 100 or 150 people.
Well, you really have to reinvent yourself because you were strictly a catering banquet hall before this. So now you're doing the curbside. As you mentioned, you open up for the outdoor dining, and you plan on opening up for the indoor dining at 25% capacity as well?
Well, that has to be what our future is. I mean, we are a caterer. We're not either a restaurant like the Porter Group or the Victoralo Group, where people are used to going there on a regular basis. It's challenging to convert into an outdoor dining or indoor dining. Our niche is catering. And again, we're disappointed that a lot of the weddings and corporate events that rescheduled into the fall or later have reduced their size and capacity from, let's call it an average of 125 people to 40 or less. So you can imagine the profit margins on putting out an event for 40 people versus 150 is extraordinary.
Well, let's roll the clocks a little bit back to February 15th. At that particular time, before anybody heard of this virus in the United States, how many full and part-time employees did you have in your business, and how many did you either have to furlough or lay off?
We had between 12 and 14 full-time between branches in West Long Branch and our other facility out at Loretta, which is a winery. And they were a variety of salespeople, full-time chefs, administrative people, and part-time, which are the waitresses, the bartenders, the party planners, anywhere from 25 to 30. We now have approximately 3 or 4 full-time and only 3 part-time. One of the issues bringing back people, we've tried to bring some people back this stimulus, and it's all over. I think the news has talked about it every time I've seen something out in the restaurant industry. Adding the stimulus $600 to the unemployment benefit put people in a position where they're making as much or more staying home. And that's what I got from a lot of our people at branches. We're making almost as much staying home. So A, why would we want to work the hours and the nights? And, you know, they're standing on their feet. It's a difficult industry. And being exposed to possible this exposure to flu-like symptoms, and they might have elderly family members. So it's been very difficult to bring back most of our help.
Have you applied for any of the loan or grant programs, the PPP program, the government, or the disaster loans that the SBA put out?
Yeah, yes, we did, and I'm happy to say a bank where I'm a member of, First Constitution, was very helpful. We're what I would call kind of a mid-sized bank, 1.6 billion, and we were able to navigate through a lot of applications much faster than the larger banks. So we received our money ace early on, and without that, it would have been, a true disaster. It been able us to stay open, pay part of our rent. As you know, it was 75% the beginning payroll. They lowered it to 60, allowing us 40% for utilities and rent and mortgage payments. So without that, we would have had a major problem, and that was certainly something that was needed for all the restaurant industry.
As a CPA, you talked about the unemployment, the $600 extra. You talked about the PPA program. The federal government's talking about another round of stimulus. What do you think would be most helpful for small businesses to come out with this round instead of the added unemployment or the PPP?
Well, one thing I understand, I don't know if it's passed yet. They're going to stop in July the $600 so-called stimulus extra check, and believe it or not, give people a back-to-work bonus. Think about that for a minute. We're paying people to go back to work.
Yeah.
Right? We're almost saying, please go back to work and we'll pay you an extra amount. So that's, unfortunately, because of the stimulus, they're now, if that passes, will help because people will come back. They're not going to get their stimulus and they'll get that bonus. So that's needed because we've kept our kitchen open to keep our regular chefs there, because if not, they're going to find work elsewhere.
So, they had to pay people to stay home, and now they're going to pay people to bring them back to work. I also understand that there's consideration for a $4,000 travel tax credit if you travel domestically within the United States.
Yeah, a lot of those are being worked on, and yes, there's more needed if that's the question to keep, especially in the restaurant industry. We can't work remotely. A lot of these businesses are able to be, especially the tech industry, they can work like that. Even the retailers are able to ship things to people, but we're not able to do that. We're a hands-on with people. And it's needed. I mean, we're all social people, and people want their weddings, they want their bar mitzvahs, they want their birthday parties. And without that, I think that's one of the reasons we have a lot of people are depressed and unhappy with the current climate. So the industry needs another step up after this indoor dining, because again, at 25% capacity, we're still unable to achieve what the levels of volume we had before.
You mentioned you're making a change in your business model to do the dining, to do the a la carte dining. Any other changes to your business model or your facility or your plant or your concept that you think you'll be making coming out of this closing period? Well,
we'll drop the outdoor dining and the curbside. We're stopping already because you cannot make money in that. Again, as I said, the startup costs are tremendous with all the extra supplies and containers and advertising you need to do, people running food out back and forth. We want to go back to what we do best, which is catering. And one thing we're starting out an advertising program where people who want to stay at home and do an event, whether it be in their backyard or in a park or anywhere they can get a permit, we'll cater it there, whether it be outdoors in the backyard or at a friend's barn or whatever. And people seem to be more comfortable in having events there than in an indoor ballroom, which is closed in. And people even tell me they're worried about air conditioning systems and heating systems and everything else you can think of, using the bathrooms. So what we're researching and coming out with a program soon to feature backyard and off-site catering.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that are really your personal opinion, and they're sort of interrelated. With reference to the reopening of the economy in New Jersey, most say that it's been way too slow. Do you agree?
Yes and no. It's definitely too slow for the businesses. However, from a health standpoint, you have to balance that, and most people are not comfortable being one or 2 feet next to each other. So it had to be done, and from statistics I see, we've achieved in Jersey and New York wonderful statistics on so-called lowering the curve. So I think that had to be done, unfortunately hurting a lot of businesses.
So as we sit here today and talk on June 23rd, do you think the restaurant and catering industry in New Jersey is providing a better community service by staying closed or by being open?
Well, as I said, from a health standpoint, definitely staying closed. Trying to have events in April and May would have been, I think, a disaster health-wise, and people would not probably have attended. So that was the right decision from my standpoint. Yes, it hurt our businesses, but probably we saved a lot of people not only contracting this awful disease, but unfortunately their family also exposing a whole family. So it was the right decision. I think now they're too slow, and the governor now is stepping up. As I said, July 2nd, finally indoor. They're opening Atlantic City casinos, which desperately need to open, and getting people back out to some degree.
Hypothetically, how comfortable would you feel yourself dining in at a restaurant right now?
Well, I tried it this weekend already. I went to three places, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to experiment some of my favorite places. And a few of them were very well spaced out, without naming them. They were more than 6 feet. And some of them that had bars had people at the bars not spaced out.
Yeah, but that was outdoors. How about dining indoors? How comfortable would you feel right now?
I think I would be reluctant right now, especially because it's summer and we have the option to dine out. I would do that over dining in. I don't know how I'll be in the fall, but right now I would favor an outdoor dining to an indoor dining.
So we learned today that indoor dining at restaurants can open on July 2nd, 25% capacity. You mentioned that previously. So far, there's no date for banquet hall, indoor affairs, outdoor only. How much longer do you anticipate before catering halls, banquet halls are permitted to open indoors?
I don't know, because that just came out today. My understanding is we may be able, again, with 25% capacity, to have indoor events. I haven't read all of the fine print because it came out today. My understanding, with the casinos open and the restaurants in there, restaurants will be able to do that. But again, it's either, I think the formula was 25% of your capacity or no more than 50, whatever is lower.
How long do you think before catering halls can open at full capacity again?
I would say until we have a vaccine, that's not going to happen. And even if it does, I'm convinced you're not going to get, again, that 100-person event. Is not going to happen. The sports arena is already, good news or bad news, a giant ticket holder. I just got an email today that they're allowing people, and of course you have to have a PSL license, so you're obligated to buy the tickets. They're letting you skip this year, so that shows you what they're allowing people to do if they're not comfortable being in close quarters.
So they're allowing you to skip paying for your PSL this year?
No, the PSL you buy up front, the ticket,
right,
and you own the seat. That allows you to buy the tickets every year.
Oh, so you don't have to buy the tickets this year.
So they're saying you're not going to lose your PSL license, and you can skip the year and not buy the ticket. So that's telling me, I think it's going to push out the capacity, to answer your question, full-time capacity much further out.
Much further out. And you already mentioned what you think that the future of the banquet hall landscape is going to look like when the crisis is over. You mentioned smaller gatherings, outdoor gatherings, so everybody's going to have to transition. If you're in the catering business right now, you might be waiting a little bit longer to generate the same type of revenue that you did pre-COVID than the restaurants will, because at least they'll get 50, 60, 70% capacity.
Yeah, my prediction is you're going to see some of these catering facilities go out of business, and mergers probably to lower overhead. If we're doing half the volume we were, and another catering place not too far from us is doing half, for us to both pay that overhead is probably not the best way to run your business. Is if you could combine them. And these so-called ghost kitchens are popping up all over, where 2 or 3 companies are using the same kitchen at different times. I think that's what has to happen. We can't pay for a facility the size of a Branches or the size of some of these other large catering places and be at 25 or even 50% capacity.
Have you considered, you mentioned your outdoor parties and you're going to put a push for the backyards for the outdoor affairs. Have you considered a mobile food truck?
Well, not so much a food truck. We do have refrigerated trucks. We have 2 of them because we've done several events off-site for as much as the Make-A-Wish facility out in Monroe Township. We do it at their facility there for 600 people. So we're used to doing off-site. I don't know if you were asking, are we going to get a food truck?
Yeah, food truck. I mean, where you could go and park the truck at somebody's house and prepare the catering right inside the truck. With a kitchen and everything in there.
Well, we prep at our facility. As I said, we have refrigerated trucks, so we prep there. We have portable ovens and heating instruments, so we can take it right to your backyard, almost finished, finish it there. And it's the same it's better than coming out of a food truck because we have so much more capacity and the right equipment right in our kitchen. So most off-site events, we prep and take them right to the facility. So
Carmen, we're coming to the end of this interview. One question I have for you, again, I asked you to look at this with 2 hats on, the hospitality hat and the accounting hat. What has been your biggest challenge during this crisis?
Try to help, well, from the accounting standpoint, trying to help our clients with the voluminous paperwork of doing these PPP loans, and some banks, especially the larger ones, not being able to facilitate their applications on a timely basis. So that's been a major challenge. And then as an owner, having to convert to first curbside and outdoor dining and struggling with people coming back to work, all of those things together, it has created certainly some major problems.
So what advice, if any, would you like to share with your fellow caterers and also your clients of your accounting business that are in the hospitality industry as well?
Get out of the hospitality industry. Looking back, in this economy, the owners are the bad guys. I mean, we're not sitting home collecting $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a week for doing nothing. We're out there trying to preserve jobs. So, like you mentioned, a second stimulus is needed. We're the people employing all these people who are now not working. We want to get them back to work, and without us being, the catering halls, the restaurants, the accounting firms, whatever, there's no place for these people to go back to. But they got to keep us open. They got to keep us going.
Look, I thank you for your time today. I thank you for your insight in this conversation. I hope this ends soon for you and for all of our fellow small business owners and for all of America. So we take one day at a time and we keep the faith. That's all we can do.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us here. And any other questions, we'd be happy to answer.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.